approach to refugees has focused quite heavily on how to prevent security threats, cheaters. You talk a lot about bogus refugees abusing Canada's generosity, jumping the queue, getting health benefits they don't deserve. The government has so far chosen not to accelerate the pace of Syrian refugee resettlement, as was done for the Vietnamese and for the Kosovars. Is this because you fear that Syrian refugees pose a security threat?
No, look, as you know, I made an announcement on this earlier in the campaign. You know, as we know, everybody's been galvanized by this terrible picture of this young boy, Alan, in Turkey. But look, we were working on this before that. You know full well that earlier in this campaign, we announced specifically our intention to increase the number of refugees that we are bringing from this part of the world. And as part of that process, obviously, we're evaluating how exactly it is we process people to make sure we do it effectively and efficiently. Obviously, there are issues of, well, first of all, there are issues of fairness. I mean, you want to make sure of all the millions of people that could apply, you're bringing in the most vulnerable. Also, this is a war zone, so there are security things that have to be checked. But look, we realize that we have to bring in more and we have to do it more effectively and quickly. That said, you know, there should be no misunderstanding here. Under this government, it's a long-standing tradition in fairness, but under this government, Canada has by far the largest per capita refugee resettlement program in the world. In fact, in absolute numbers, we are only behind the United States. So this is a strong tradition of this country. Obviously, we want to make sure we do it right and we do more, but we are absolutely committed to doing that. Let me also say this once again. I think there's not enough times I can say it. There is no solution to this problem simply in refugee policy. There are 15 million refugees and internally displaced persons just in that part of in that region, Iraq and Syria, where ISIS is. In other similar areas where there are jihadist movements, there are refugee populations. Of course, there are refugee populations unrelated to ISIS. There is no solution in just that. We have to do humanitarian aid on the ground, and we have to provide military support so that these millions of people cannot continue to be attacked and killed and placed. And as you may remember, I announced this earlier in the campaign in the presence of significant representation of Syrian and Iraqi Canadians. And they understand and they support. We must do refugee policy, humanitarian policy, and we must do military policy as well, and military support, and anything else is inadequate and is a cop-out, and this country will not do that. The premise of the question, once again, is that somehow there's a choice between refugee and humanitarian aid and providing military assistance to these countries. That's not a choice. We have to do all of these things. Obviously, we have bringing in and are bringing in more refugees, but there are tens of millions of refugees. You can't solve the problem through refugee policy alone. Humanitarian policy, all those millions of people who are there, we are providing them. We have provided $800 million worth of aid. I suspect we're the largest per capita donor of aid in the world in this part of the planet. But we also have to do something about the root cause. We have groups, you know, we see this terrible picture of Alan on the beach dead. We have pictures every day, videos, of people being tortured and massacred and driven out of their homes and rendered homeless and without food and shelter every single day. And to suggest that the Canadian military, in concert with our allies, would do absolutely nothing, I mean, forget about how wrong that is from a humanitarian compassionate sense. We would allow our own security to be threatened in that way, a group like this to set itself up as an empire in the middle of the world to launch terrorist attacks against us. The NDP's position on these things is deeply ideological, and it is deeply wrong, and it is out of step with what Canadians believe.